The moment I heard my daughter Amanda whisper those words to her husband Derek at my 70th birthday lunch, everything inside me went cold. While I keep her busy, you go change the locks at her house. I watched Derek nod and slip away from the table at Romano's Italian Kitchen, my favorite restaurant. I kept smiling, kept cutting my lasagna, kept pretending I heard nothing, but my hands shook. The daughter I raised, the child I sacrificed everything for, was stealing my home, the home I built with my own hands. I sat there at that table, fork in hand, trying to focus on Amanda's voice as she babbled about her youngest daughter's soccer tournament. My mind was spinning. Change the locks. My locks. The words kept echoing in my skull like a drumbeat. Mom, are you listening? Amanda's voice cut through my thoughts. I blinked and forced a smile. Of course, sweetheart. Sophie scored 2 goals, you said? 3, Mom. Amanda's expression shifted just for a second. Something calculating flickered across her face before the concerned daughter mask slipped back into place. Are you feeling all right? You seem distracted. My throat felt tight. I'm fine. Just tired. 70 is a big number. She reached across the table and patted my hand. Her touch made my skin crawl, though I couldn't have explained why. Not yet. Not until I understood what was really happening. The minutes crawled by. I picked at my food, watching the door. Amanda kept up a steady stream of conversation, talking about her children, her volunteer work at their school, the new furniture she wanted to buy. Every word felt like another layer of deception. 53 minutes after Derek left, he walked back through the door of Romano's. I saw him before Amanda did. His face was white as paper, his hands trembling so badly he shoved them into his pockets. He looked like a man who'd seen something terrible. Amanda noticed my gaze and turned. Her smile evaporated when she saw her husband's expression. She stood quickly, nearly knocking over her water glass. Excuse me, Mom. I need to check on Derek. He's not feeling well. I watched them huddle near the entrance, heads close together. Derek was speaking rapidly, his voice too low for me to hear over the restaurant noise. But I could read his body language: fear, confusion, panic. Amanda's face cycled through emotions: shock, anger, then something that looked almost like terror before she controlled herself. She glanced back at me, and our eyes met across the restaurant. In that instant, I saw the truth. Whatever they'd been planning, it had gone very wrong. They came back to the table together. Derek wouldn't meet my eyes. Mom, Amanda said, her voice too bright, too cheerful. Derek's not feeling well. We should probably head out. But happy birthday. This was lovely. I set down my fork carefully. What happened at my house, Derek? His eyes went wide. Amanda's hand clamped onto his arm, her knuckles white. What are you talking about, Mom? I'm talking about the fact that your husband left here nearly an hour ago to change the locks on my house, and now he looks like he's about to throw up. My voice came out steady, cold. 30 years as a contractor dealing with dishonest subcontractors had taught me how to keep calm when confronting liars. So I'll ask again, what happened? Derek opened his mouth. Amanda squeezed his arm harder. Mom, I think you're confused. Derek went to get something from the car. He has low blood sugar. That's all. I heard you, Amanda. Every word. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. You told him to change the locks while you kept me distracted. So here I am, no longer distracted. What did you do? The pretense shattered. Amanda's face went hard. Other diners were starting to glance our way, but I didn't care. My daughter, my own child, had just tried to steal my home. Fine. Amanda's voice dropped low and vicious. You want to know what happened? Derek couldn't do it. He's a locksmith, Mom, a professional. And he couldn't change your locks. Why? Because they have some kind of security system he's never seen before. Something so old and weird that he couldn't figure it out without setting off alarms. Derek finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. The whole system is custom. I've never seen anything like it. There are backup mechanisms, redundant security protocols. Whoever installed it knew what they were doing. I installed it, I said quietly. When I built the house, 30 years ago. Amanda laughed, but there was no humor in it. Right. You built the house. Mom, you were a secretary. Don't start making things up. The words hit me like a slap. I was never a secretary. I was a licensed contractor and architect. I designed and built that house from the ground up after your father died. You know this, Amanda. You were 12 years old. You watched me draw the plans at the kitchen table of our apartment. That's not how I remember it. Amanda's eyes were cold now, all pretense of affection gone. And honestly, Mom, your memory isn't what it used to be, which is why we need to talk about your living situation. You're too old to manage that big house alone. You're going to hurt yourself. My heart was pounding. What are you talking about? Amanda pulled a folder from her purse and placed it on the table. I have power of attorney, Mom. You signed these documents 6 months ago. You don't remember, but you did. And I've been managing your affairs since then. The house is being transferred to my name. It's already done. I grabbed the folder, hands shaking. Inside were official-looking documents, legal forms. And there, at the bottom, was what looked like my signature. But I'd never signed these papers. I'd never even seen them before. This is forgery, I said. My voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. Amanda, this is fraud. It's protection, she snapped. We've been planning this for 6 months. I've filed all the proper paperwork. I've been to your bank with the power of attorney. I've spoken to your doctor about your declining mental state. The house will be in my name by the end of next week, and there's nothing you can do about it. I'm doing this for your own good, whether you're capable of understanding that or not. Derek looked miserable. Amanda, maybe we should... Shut up, Derek. She didn't even glance at him. Her eyes were locked on mine. I'm sorry it came out like this, Mom. I really wanted to do this gently. But since you overheard, we might as well be honest. You can't take care of yourself anymore. You forget things. You get confused. And that house is way too much for you. I have 3 children. I need the space. This is what's best for everyone. I looked at my daughter and barely recognized her. You're stealing my home. I'm taking care of you, she said. There's a difference. Now we're leaving. I suggest you come with us. We can discuss the transition like adults. I'm going home, I said. To my house. Amanda smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. Go ahead. But you'll find I've already been to the county recorder's office. I filed a quitclaim deed yesterday. According to official records, you gifted me the house due to declining mental capacity. It's done, Mom. It's already done. I drove home in a daze, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles ached. The streets of my neighborhood blurred past. I'd lived here for 3 decades. I knew every tree, every house, every crack in the sidewalk. This was my world. The world I'd built. When I turned onto Maple Street, my heart stopped. A moving truck sat in my driveway. A huge rental truck with its back doors open. I parked on the street and ran toward my house. The front door stood open. Inside, I could hear voices, footsteps, the sound of furniture being dragged across floors. Amanda was already there. Of course she was. She must have driven 90 miles an hour to beat me home. What are you doing? I stood in my own doorway, looking at the boxes stacked in my living room. My living room? The room I'd framed with my own hands, the walls I'd painted myself. Moving in. Amanda brushed past me carrying a lamp. Like I said, Mom, this is happening. You can make it easy, or you can make it hard. But it's happening. You can't do this. This is my house. Not anymore. A man's voice came from the kitchen. I turned to see my son Caleb walking toward me. My younger child, the one who'd always been quieter, more withdrawn. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Caleb. My voice broke on his name. You're part of this too? He shrugged uncomfortably. Mom, be reasonable. Look at this place. It's too big for you. You can't manage the upkeep. Amanda has 3 kids living in a tiny townhouse. This makes sense. You're being selfish. Selfish. My own son called me selfish for wanting to keep the home I built. I built this house, I said again, louder this time, with my own money, my own labor. After your father died and left us with nothing, I worked 18-hour days. I learned carpentry, plumbing, electrical work. I got my contractor's license. I designed every inch of this house. You have no right. We have every right. Amanda's voice came from upstairs. She appeared at the top of the staircase, looking down at me like I was a confused child. We're your family. We're protecting you. Now, you can stay in the guest room for now, but you need to understand the rules. This is my house, my space, my decisions. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands. I'm calling the police. Go ahead. Amanda came down the stairs slowly, deliberately. I already spoke to them. I showed them the power of attorney documents. I explained your confusion. They said it's a civil matter. They won't get involved. I dialed anyway. A police cruiser arrived 12 minutes later. Officer Ryan Thompson, a young man who looked barely old enough to shave, listened patiently as I explained the situation. Then Amanda showed him her folder of forged documents. Ma'am, Officer Thompson said gently, this appears to be a family dispute over legal documents. You'll need to work this out with an attorney. There's nothing criminal happening here that I can see. She forged my signature. She's stealing my house. That's a serious accusation, the officer said. But without proof, I can't make an arrest based on your word against these documents. I'm sorry. You should contact a lawyer. He left, and I stood in my foyer, feeling like the walls were closing in. By evening, Derek had changed the locks on the interior doors. Not the main exterior locks which had defeated him, but the bedrooms, the office, the basement. Amanda handed me a single key. Guest room only, she said. I don't want you wandering around at night. You might hurt yourself. I walked to my home office, the room where I'd spent countless hours drafting blueprints and managing my contracting business. The door was locked. Through the window, I could see Amanda sitting at my desk, going through my filing cabinets, my personal files, my business records, my life. I tried the master bedroom, also locked. Through that door, I heard Amanda's children running around, laughing. My bedroom, where I'd slept alone for 30 years after my husband died, where I'd cried and healed and rebuilt my life. Now it belonged to my grandchildren, who didn't even know what their grandmother had sacrificed. The guest room was small, barely 10 feet by 10 feet. A single bed, a tiny closet, one window looking out at the neighbor's fence. This was my home now, this tiny box in the house I built. I sat on the bed and opened my phone to check my bank accounts. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type the password. My checking account, $0.43. My savings account, 0. My retirement account. Inaccessible. A message on the screen said the account holder had requested a full withdrawal 2 weeks ago. Over $200,000. Gone. I ran to the office door and pounded on it. Amanda! What did you do with my money? The door opened. Amanda stood there, arms crossed, completely calm. I moved it to a protected account. For your own good, Mom. You're not capable of managing your finances anymore. I'm keeping it safe. You're stealing from me. I'm protecting you from yourself. You can't be trusted with money. You might give it away to scammers. You might make poor investments. This way, it's safe. I'll make sure you have everything you need. I want my money back. Right now. No. Amanda started to close the door. I shoved my foot in the way. This is theft. This is elder abuse. I'm going to report you to every authority I can find. Amanda leaned close, her voice dropping to a whisper. And who do you think they'll believe? The concerned daughter with all the legal paperwork, or the confused old woman who thinks she built her own house? She pushed the door closed, and I heard the lock click. I went back to the guest room and curled up on the bed. My house, my money, my daughter. Everything I thought I knew had been ripped away in a single day. But as I lay there in the darkness, something else stirred inside me. Not just grief, not just betrayal, something harder and colder. The same determination that had gotten me through my husband's death. The same steel that had let me build a business in a male-dominated industry. The same refusal to quit that had let me frame walls and run electrical wire and negotiate with suppliers who didn't think a woman belonged on a construction site. Amanda had made a mistake. A big one. She'd forgotten who built this house, and she had no idea what I was capable of. The next morning, I dressed carefully in slacks and a blazer, trying to look as competent and professional as possible. I needed help, and I needed it fast. My first stop was Gerald Patterson's law office on 5th Street. Gerald had handled my business contracts for years. He'd know what to do. His receptionist greeted me with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Mrs. Harmon, Mr. Patterson is expecting you. That was odd. I hadn't called ahead. But I followed her back to Gerald's office, a wood-paneled room filled with legal books and framed diplomas. Gerald stood when I entered, but his expression was cautious. Wary, even. Maribel, please, sit down. Gerald, I need your help. My daughter has forged documents claiming I gave her power of attorney. She's stealing my house, my money, everything. I need you to file. Maribel. He held up a hand. I received a call yesterday from your daughter Amanda. She's very concerned about you. My stomach dropped. What did she tell you? She said you've been experiencing some cognitive decline, memory issues, confusion. She mentioned you might come here making accusations and that you might not remember signing the power of attorney documents. Gerald's voice was gentle, pitying. I need to be honest with you. Given what she's told me, I can't simply take your case and start filing motions. I need to do a competency evaluation first. A competency evaluation? I felt like the floor was tilting beneath me. Gerald, I'm completely competent. Amanda is lying. She's manipulating everyone. I understand this is difficult, he said. But my ethical obligations require me to ensure you're capable of making legal decisions. It's for your protection. She's been planning this. My voice rose. She's been setting this up for months, telling people I'm declining so no one will believe me when I fight back. Gerald, please. You've known me for 25 years. Do I seem incompetent to you? He studied me carefully. You seem upset and agitated, which is understandable given the circumstances you believe you're facing. But that doesn't tell me whether Amanda's concerns have merit. I'm sorry, Maribel. Schedule a competency evaluation, and then we can discuss your case. I left his office in a fog. Amanda had gotten to him first. She'd poisoned the well. My next stop was First National Bank, where I'd done business since the day I opened my contracting company. The manager, Patricia Brenner, had always been friendly. We'd served on a nonprofit board together years ago. Surely she would help me. But when I walked into her office, Patricia's smile was sad and sympathetic in a way that made me want to scream. "Maribel, I heard you might stop by. Please, sit down. Patricia, I need to access my accounts. Someone has stolen my money. Your daughter came in 3 weeks ago with power of attorney documents," Patricia said carefully. "She explained that you'd asked her to help manage your finances. The documents were in order. We verified your signature. She forged my signature. I never signed anything." Patricia pulled up records on her computer. "According to our notes, she's been gradually transferring funds over the past 3 weeks. Small amounts at first, then larger sums, all properly authorized according to the power of attorney. I want to reverse every transaction. Right now. I can't do that. Without proof, the power of attorney is fraudulent. You'd need a court order. Or you'd need to prove the signatures were forged, which would require forensic analysis and likely a police investigation." Patricia leaned forward. "Maribel, I've known you a long time. I don't want to see you taken advantage of. But I also can't ignore legal documents. If Amanda really did forge these papers, you need to prove it. Until then, my hands are tied." I left the bank feeling like I was drowning. Every institution, every system I tried to turn to for help was blocked by Amanda's forged documents. I called my sister Dorothy from the parking lot. Dorothy was 2 years older than me, still sharp as a tack, living in Phoenix. She'd know this was wrong. She'd believe me. "Maribel," Dorothy said when she answered. Her voice was cautious. "Amanda called me yesterday." "Of course she did. Let me guess. She told you I'm losing my mind. She said she's been worried about you for months. She mentioned you've been forgetting things, repeating yourself. She said you left the stove on twice, and that you got lost driving home from the grocery store last month." Dorothy paused. "Is any of that true?" "No, none of it is true. Dorothy, she's lying. She's trying to steal everything from me." "I want to believe you," Dorothy said slowly. "But honey, you have to understand how this sounds. You're accusing your own daughter of an elaborate conspiracy." And Amanda sounded genuinely worried. She was crying on the phone, crocodile tears. My voice broke. "Dorothy, I built my house. I designed it myself. I know every board, every wire, every pipe. I'm not confused. I'm not declining. I'm being robbed by my own child, and no one believes me." The silence on the other end of the line stretched too long. "Maybe," Dorothy said finally, "you should consider that Amanda might be right. Maybe you do need help. That doesn't mean you're incompetent, Maribel. It just means you're getting older. We all are." I hung up. My own sister doubted me. That afternoon I called my friend Janet. We'd been close for 15 years, ever since she'd hired me to design an addition to her house. Janet had watched me work. She knew I was capable, but when I told her what was happening, Janet was quiet for too long. "Maribel," she said gently, "Amanda called me too. Last week, she asked if I'd noticed anything off about you." "And?" My heart was in my throat. "Well, you did seem confused at Bridge Club last month. You forgot whose turn it was several times. And you told that story about building your house twice in the same conversation." "I was distracted," I was worried because Amanda had been acting strange. Maybe, Janet said. Or maybe Amanda's right, and you need more support than you realize. I'm not saying she's handling this perfectly, but I'm also not sure you're seeing things clearly. I hung up and sat in my car in the bank parking lot, staring at nothing. Amanda had been methodical. She'd spent months, maybe longer, laying the groundwork, planting doubts, building a narrative of decline. And now, when I tried to fight back, everyone saw exactly what she'd primed them to see: a confused old woman having paranoid delusions about her loving daughter. I drove to a new law office, one Amanda wouldn't know about. Young attorney, fresh out of school, hopefully hungry for cases. But when I explained the situation, the lawyer looked uncomfortable. "Mrs. Harmon, I need to tell you something. There's a guardianship petition filed in probate court. Your daughter filed it 2 days ago. She's claiming you're a vulnerable adult who can't manage your own affairs." My blood ran cold. Guardianship? It means she'd have legal control over all your decisions. Medical, financial, living arrangements, everything. There's a hearing scheduled for 8 days from now. The attorney pushed a document across the desk. "You need to take this seriously. If the court grants guardianship, you'll have very limited rights. You'd essentially be declared incompetent." I hired him on the spot, draining what little cash I had left. His name was Timothy Walsh, and he was young and nervous, but he was all I had. The next few days blurred together. Timothy requested documents from the court. We discovered Amanda had been building her case for months. She had statements from neighbors, photographs of my supposedly cluttered kitchen, claims that I'd been wandering the neighborhood confused. "The problem," Timothy said, "is that she's got a paper trail, and we don't. You say she forged documents, but we have no proof. You say she's lying about your mental state, but we have no witnesses who'll contradict her narrative. It's going to be tough." On the 6th day, I received a visit at the house. A woman in a blazer showed me identification. Helen Crawford, Adult Protective Services. "Mrs. Harmon, we received a report that you're a vulnerable adult who may be experiencing financial exploitation and showing signs of self-neglect. I need to ask you some questions." I let her in because I had no choice. Helen walked through the house, making notes. She saw the moving boxes, the chaos of Amanda's belongings mixed with mine. She saw my tiny guest room with its single bed. She asked me questions about my finances, my health, my daily routine. I tried to explain what was happening, how Amanda had stolen everything. But the more I talked, the more agitated I became. And I could see Helen's expression shift. Not quite belief, not quite sympathy, just a professional assessment of someone who seemed unstable. "Mrs. Harmon," Helen said finally, "I'm going to recommend temporary guardianship to the court. I believe you need protection. Whether that protection is from others or from yourself, I can't yet determine. But something here is very wrong, and you need oversight until we sort it out." After she left, I sat in the guest room and stared at the walls. The walls I'd built, the house I'd created, and I was being erased from it, piece by piece, system by system. That night, I discovered Amanda had been to see my doctor. How, I didn't know. She must have claimed to be my healthcare proxy. Doctor. Marcus sent a letter to the court expressing concern about missed appointments and my apparent disorientation during my last visit. But I hadn't missed appointments. Amanda had canceled them without telling me. And I'd seemed disoriented because Amanda had deliberately confused me, asking strange questions and making me doubt myself. The trap was complete, and I was caught in it. The morning of the guardianship hearing, I dressed in my best suit, a navy blue ensemble I'd bought for my 70th birthday party. The irony wasn't lost on me. That party felt like it had happened a lifetime ago, though it had only been 10 days. Timothy met me outside the courthouse. He looked nervous, shuffling papers in his briefcase. "I'm not going to lie to you, Maribel. This is going to be rough." Amanda's attorney is Patricia Brennan, one of the top family law attorneys in the county. "She's expensive and she's good." "I thought you said we had a chance." "I said we had a case. Having a chance and having a good chance are different things." He wouldn't quite meet my eyes. "Just stay calm in there. Don't get emotional. Don't raise your voice. Answer questions directly and simply. If you start seeming angry or paranoid, it'll play right into their hands." The courtroom was smaller than I'd expected. Judge Elizabeth Hawkins presided, a stern woman in her 60s who looked like she'd seen every variety of family dysfunction imaginable. Amanda sat at the other table with her attorney, a sharply dressed woman who exuded confidence. Derek sat behind them. Caleb, too. My own children, united against me. Amanda's attorney stood first. "Your Honor, this is a heartbreaking situation. Miss Amanda Pierce is here today because she loves her mother and is desperately worried about her welfare. Over the past year, Mrs. Harmon has shown clear signs of cognitive decline. She forgets conversations. She becomes confused easily. She's made poor financial decisions. Most concerning, she's begun making paranoid accusations against her own family." Timothy objected, but Judge Hawkins waved him off. "I'll hear the evidence, Counselor." Amanda took the stand first. She wore a simple dress, minimal makeup, tissues clutched in her hand. She was the picture of a devoted, worried daughter. She dabbed at her eyes as she spoke. "I've been noticing changes for about 2 years now," Amanda said, her voice trembling. Little things at first. She'd tell me the same story twice in one conversation. She'd forget appointments. Then it got worse. "Last November, a neighbor called me because Mom was walking around the block in her bathrobe at 3 in the morning. She said she couldn't remember how to get home. That was a complete lie. It had never happened. But I sat there, hands clenched in my lap, forced to listen." Amanda's attorney pulled out photographs. "Can you explain these to the court? These are pictures of Mom's kitchen. You can see dirty dishes piled in the sink, food left out on the counter. The refrigerator was full of expired food. We found milk that was 3 weeks past date." Amanda's voice broke. She was living in unsanitary conditions. "I was so worried she'd make herself sick. I wanted to scream. Those photographs were staged. Amanda had deliberately created that mess and photographed it, but I couldn't prove it. I had no witnesses, no evidence, just my word against hers." Derek testified next. He described coming to my house and finding unpaid bills, disconnected utilities, general disarray, all lies, all carefully constructed lies. Then the neighbors testified. 2 couples from my street, people I'd waved to for years but never really known. They described seeing me outside at odd hours, looking confused. They talked about overgrown landscaping and newspapers piling up on my driveway. The landscaping was overgrown because I'd been busy. The newspapers piled up for 3 days while I was visiting Dorothy in Phoenix. Normal things twisted into evidence of decline. Caleb testified last. He was reluctant, his voice quiet. Mom's always been strong and independent. But over the last year, I've noticed changes. She forgot my birthday. She forgot my son's graduation. She calls me by my dad's name sometimes. It scares me. More lies. I'd never forgotten his birthday. I'd never called him by his late father's name. But Caleb delivered his testimony with sad sincerity, and I could see the judge taking notes. The worst moment came when Amanda's attorney presented a letter from Dr. Marcus. He wrote that I'd missed 3 recent appointments, and during my last visit seemed disoriented and agitated. He recommended a full neurological evaluation. "Your Honor," Amanda's attorney said, "we're not trying to take anything from Mrs. Harmon. We're trying to protect her. She's a danger to herself. She can't manage her finances responsibly. Someone needs to make decisions in her best interest until she's capable of doing so again, if ever." When it was my turn to testify, I tried to stay calm. I explained my background, my career as a contractor and architect. I described building the house, the security system, the years of running a successful business. But Amanda's attorney cross-examined me aggressively. "Mrs. Harmon, you say you built your house. Can you produce any documentation proving that? Permits, contracts, business records?" My daughter took all of that from my home office. Or perhaps those documents never existed. You were a secretary for a construction company, weren't you? Perhaps you've confused your employer's work with your own achievements. I was never a secretary. My voice rose, and I saw Timothy wince. I was losing control. Exactly what they wanted. I built that house. I know every detail because I designed it. "Mrs. Harmon, you're becoming agitated. Is this how you normally react when confused?" "I'm not confused. I'm being robbed." Judge Hawkins intervened. "Mrs. Harmon, please calm down. I understand this is stressful, but I need you to maintain composure." I took a breath, trying to steady myself. But the damage was done. I looked exactly like they'd described. Agitated, paranoid, unstable. Timothy tried to help. He asked me technical questions about construction, about architecture, trying to prove my competence. I answered as well as I could. I explained load-bearing walls and electrical codes and foundation requirements. But without documentation, it was just words. Amanda's attorney smiled. "Your Honor, Mrs. Harmon clearly has some knowledge of construction, perhaps from her years working as a secretary in the industry. But that doesn't prove she's capable of managing her life now. And it certainly doesn't disprove the documented evidence of decline we've presented." The hearing lasted 3 hours. When it was over, Judge Hawkins took a 15-minute recess to review the evidence. Those 15 minutes felt like years. When she returned, her expression was grave. "This is not an easy decision. Mrs. Harmon, you're clearly an intelligent woman with a strong will. However, I'm troubled by the documented evidence of cognitive changes. I'm troubled by the photographs and witness testimony, and I'm troubled by your emotional state today, which does suggest some instability." My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might faint. "Given the concerns about your ability to manage your own affairs, and given the evidence of recent poor judgment in financial matters, I'm granting temporary guardianship to your daughter, Amanda Pierce. This guardianship is effective immediately and will last for 90 days, at which point we'll reassess based on your medical evaluations." The judge's voice continued, explaining terms and conditions, but I couldn't hear any more. The roaring in my ears drowned everything out. "Mrs. Harmon will undergo psychological and neurological evaluation within the next 30 days. She will temporarily reside with Miss Pierce for her own safety. All financial and medical decisions will be made by Miss Pierce as guardian. This is a temporary order designed to protect Mrs. Harmon until we have clearer information about her capacity." The gavel came down. It was over. I'd lost. Lost everything. In a single afternoon, I'd been declared essentially incompetent. My rights stripped away. My autonomy gone. 2 bailiffs escorted me from the courtroom. Not roughly, but firmly, like I was a prisoner or a mental patient. someone who couldn't be trusted to act in her own best interest. In the hallway, Amanda caught up with me. She was crying again, those perfect fake tears. "Mom, I'm so sorry it came to this, but this is what's best. You'll see. We'll take care of you." I looked at her through eyes that felt like they belonged to someone else. My daughter. The baby I'd rocked to sleep. The child I'd worked 18-hour days to support. The girl whose college I'd paid for by working 3 jobs simultaneously. She smiled at me. A small, satisfied smile when she thought no one else was looking. And I understood, with perfect clarity. She'd won. The guest room in my own house became my prison. Amanda wasted no time implementing her control. She installed a lock on the outside of the door. "For my own protection," she said. "So I wouldn't wander at night and hurt myself." She took my car keys. "Too dangerous for me to drive," she explained. "What if I got confused and caused an accident?" She took my phone and gave me an old flip phone instead. But she controlled who could call it. When I tried to reach Timothy, I discovered Amanda had already called him and told him his services were no longer needed. When I tried to call Dorothy, the phone simply wouldn't connect to that number. I was cut off, isolated, alone in my own house. During the day, when Amanda and Derek were busy settling into their new space, I sat in that tiny room and listened to my life being dismantled. I heard them moving furniture, heard Amanda on the phone with auction houses and estate sale companies. "Yes, there's quite a bit of stuff," she said, her voice drifting up from downstairs. "Old furniture, tools, books. Some of it might be valuable. My mother collected a lot of junk over the years. We need to clear it out." Junk. My lifetime of possessions reduced to junk. One afternoon, I crept out when Amanda was showering and found her in my former bedroom, going through my closet. My clothes were piled in garbage bags, dresses I'd worn to business meetings, the suit I'd worn to Caleb's wedding, the coat my late husband had given me for our 20th anniversary. "What are you doing?" I stood in the doorway, shaking. Amanda didn't even look guilty. "These are going to Goodwill. You don't need this many clothes. I'm keeping a few practical outfits for you. The rest is waste. Those are mine. Everything here is mine now, Mom. The sooner you accept that, the easier this will be." She tied off another garbage bag. "Now go back to your room. The psychologist is coming tomorrow for your evaluation. You need to rest." The psychologist arrived the next morning. Dr. Raymond Marsh, a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses and a cold demeanor. He sat up in the living room and called me down. For 2 hours he asked questions. Memory tests, logic puzzles, questions about my daily routine, my emotional state, my relationships. Every question felt like a trap. Every answer could be twisted into evidence of incompetence. "Mrs. Harmon, do you remember what you had for breakfast this morning?" I hesitated. I'd been so upset I hadn't eaten breakfast, but admitting that seemed wrong somehow. "Toast," I said. He made a note. What did that note say? That I was lying? That I was confused? I'd never know. "Do you believe your daughter is trying to hurt you?" How could I answer that honestly, without sounding paranoid? "I believe she wants my house and money." More notes, more judgments I couldn't see. When Dr. Marsh finished, he spoke briefly with Amanda in the kitchen. I watched from the stairs, trying to hear. Amanda handed him what looked like additional documents. They talked in low voices, nodding seriously. He left without speaking to me again. I knew without being told that his report would not be in my favor. The days blurred together. Amanda controlled everything. When I ate, when I slept, whether I could go outside. She watched me constantly. I felt her eyes on me, waiting for me to make a mistake, waiting for me to do something that would justify her narrative of decline. One night, I couldn't sleep. The walls of the guest room felt like they were pressing in on me. I needed air. I needed space. I needed to walk through my own house, touch the walls I'd built, remember who I used to be. I crept out at 2 in the morning. The house was dark and quiet. I walked through the living room, running my hands along the windowsills I'd installed. I went to the kitchen and stood where my breakfast table used to be, remembering mornings with my children, back when they were young and still loved me. I was standing there, lost in memory, when I heard voices from upstairs. Amanda and Derek's bedroom door was cracked open. They were arguing. "I can't do this anymore," Derek's voice thick with misery. "This is wrong, Amanda. She's not incompetent. She's just old and stubborn. We're destroying her. We're securing our future," Amanda snapped. "Do you want our kids to have a decent life? Do you want to stop worrying about money? This house is worth over $1.2 million. Once the permanent guardianship goes through, I can sell it. We'll be set. You said this was about taking care of your mother." "It is. We're taking care of her by taking care of ourselves. She'll be fine. We'll put her in a nice facility somewhere. She won't need money where she's going." My blood ran cold. A facility. She was planning to institutionalize me. Derek's voice dropped lower, but I could still hear. "What about the gambling debts? The people you owe? They're not going to wait much longer." Gambling debts. My knees went weak. This wasn't about my welfare. This wasn't about concern for my declining mind. This was about money. Amanda owed money to dangerous people, and she was stealing my life to pay her debts. "The house will cover everything," Amanda said. $300,000 to pay off the debts. The rest we can use for the kids' college funds, or maybe that vacation home we talked about. But I need you to stay strong. If you back out now, if you tell anyone what we've done, you'll go down with me. You're in this too deep. You helped change the locks. You testified in court. You're an accomplice." Derek was quiet for a long time. Then, "How did it come to this?" "It came to this because my mother is a stubborn, selfish woman who refused to help us when we needed it. She has all this money, this huge house, and she wouldn't lend us anything when I asked. So I took what should have been mine anyway. I'm her daughter. I deserve this." I backed away slowly, my heart hammering. I made it back to the guest room and closed the door silently. For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than despair. I felt clarity. Cold, hard clarity. This wasn't about my welfare. This was theft. Pure and simple. And Amanda had just confessed everything while thinking I was asleep. But I had no phone that could record. No way to document what I'd heard. No witnesses. Just the word of a woman the court had declared unreliable. The next day, Amanda caught me trying to leave the house. I'd made it to the front door before she appeared behind me, moving silently like a predator. "Where do you think you're going?" "For a walk." "I'm allowed to walk." "Not alone, you're not. You might get lost. You might wander into traffic. Come on, Mom. Back to your room. I'm not a prisoner. You're a vulnerable adult under protective guardianship. There's a difference." She took my arm, her grip tight enough to bruise. "Now, we can do this the easy way, or the hard way. Your choice." I tried to pull away. She grabbed me harder. We struggled for a moment, and then Amanda pushed me. Not hard enough to injure, but hard enough to send me stumbling. I caught myself on the wall. "Stop fighting me!" Amanda's voice rose to a shout. "I'm trying to help you. Why do you have to make everything so difficult?" Derek appeared from the kitchen. He looked at us, at Amanda's flushed face, and my terrified expression, and something shifted in his eyes. Guilt, maybe shame. "Amanda, let her go. Stay out of this. Let her go. Now." Amanda released my arm. She was breathing hard, her careful mask slipping. For a moment, I saw pure rage in her eyes. Then she controlled herself, smoothed her expression back into concerned daughter mode. "Fine. Mom, go back to your room. We'll talk about this later." I went. What choice did I have? I was trapped in my own house, with my own daughter as jailer. That night, I heard them arguing again. Derek wanted out. He wanted to come clean, confess everything. Amanda threatened him with prison, with losing his locksmith license, with losing everything. In the end, Derek caved. As I knew he would. He was weak, and Amanda was relentless. I lay on that narrow bed in that tiny room and stared at the ceiling. My ceiling, in my house. And I thought about everything I'd built and everything I was losing. Then I remembered something, a detail from 30 years ago when I'd first designed this house, something I'd built that no one knew about, something I'd forgotten about myself until this moment, when I had nothing left to lose. The house had secrets, secrets I'd built into its bones. And tomorrow, when Amanda left to meet with her real estate agent about selling my home, I would find them. I waited until mid-morning. Amanda had an appointment with a real estate agent to discuss listing the house. She'd been gloating about it all week, telling me about the staging company she'd hired, the photographer coming to take pictures, the open houses she'd schedule. She'd planned to do all of this after permanent guardianship was granted in another 60 days. But her gambling debts were pressing. She needed money faster. So she was pushing ahead, confident that the court would finalize everything and no one would question her right to sell. She left at 10:30. Derek had gone to work. The house was empty, except for me. I waited 15 minutes to make sure she wasn't coming back. Then I moved. The basement door was locked, of course, but I'd built this house. I knew its tricks. In the hallway closet, behind a stack of old boxes Amanda hadn't bothered to go through yet, there was a panel in the wall. You'd never notice it unless you knew where to look. A seam in the drywall, carefully concealed, painted over so many times it was nearly invisible. I found a butter knife in the kitchen and used it to pry the panel loose. Behind it was a manual release lever for the basement door lock. I'd installed it after Amanda was born, terrified of fire traps and emergency situations, a way to access the basement even if the main lock failed. I pulled the lever. The basement door clicked open. The stairs were dark. I felt along the wall for the light switch. Found it. Flooded the stairwell with light. The basement smelled musty, unused. Amanda and Derek clearly hadn't bothered exploring down here. Why would they? It was just storage, old boxes and forgotten junk. Except it wasn't. I made my way past the water heater and the furnace, past the shelves of paint cans and old tools, all the way to the back wall, where a massive storage shelf unit stood loaded with plastic bins. The shelf unit was bolted to the wall. Solid. Immovable. Or so it appeared. I reached behind the third shelf from the bottom and felt for the release catch. My fingers found it after a moment. A small lever disguised as part of the shelf bracket. I pulled it down. The entire shelf unit swung outward on silent hinges. Behind it was a steel door with a keypad lock. My hidden office. My secret room. The space I'd built when I first started my contracting business and needed secure storage for expensive tools and important documents. Back in the days when job sites got robbed regularly and I couldn't afford insurance. I'd sealed it up years ago when I moved my office upstairs. I'd honestly forgotten it existed until desperation jogged my memory. The keypad waited for my code. What had I used? My mind raced, reaching back 3 decades. Not Amanda's birthday, not Caleb's, not my wedding anniversary. All too obvious. I'd chosen something only I would remember. My contractor's license number. 6 digits. I punched them in. The lock beeped and clicked open. The room beyond was small, maybe 12 feet by 12 feet, with no windows and air vents hidden in the ceiling. A desk, a chair, filing cabinets, shelves, and everything I'd stored here 30 years ago, untouched, perfectly preserved in the climate-controlled space. I pulled the chain for the overhead light. The fluorescent bulb flickered and came on. The first thing I found was my old file system, labeled folders in neat rows, contracts, permits, business licenses, the original blueprints for this house, with my signature on every page. The deed to the property in my name, photographs of me on the construction site, wearing a hard hat and tool belt, framing walls and running electrical conduit. Proof. Undeniable. Documented proof of everything I'd claimed. But that wasn't the most important discovery. On one shelf, I found my old security system documentation. When I built this house, home surveillance was still relatively new and expensive. But I'd been paranoid about break-ins, especially living alone with 2 young children. So I'd installed one of the first wireless recording systems available, cameras hidden in smoke detectors, microphones concealed in air vents, all feeding to a central recording system that backed up to physical storage. I'd turned it off years ago when the technology became obsolete, but the cameras were still there, still in place, hidden throughout the house. And sitting on the shelf in front of me was the recording equipment, old, bulky analog technology from the 1990s, but also a newer unit I'd installed maybe 10 years ago when I'd briefly considered reactivating the system, a digital recorder with modern capabilities. I checked the connections. Someone, probably me in a fit of paranoia I no longer remembered, had left everything hooked up. The cameras were still powered. The system was still functional. I turned it on. The monitor flickered to life. Multiple camera feeds appeared on the screen, cycling through different rooms. The living room, the kitchen, the hallway, the master bedroom. I scrolled back through the stored footage. The system had limited storage, only about 2 weeks of rolling recordings. But 2 weeks was enough. There, Amanda in my office, going through my files. Amanda in my bedroom, tossing my belongings in garbage bags. Amanda on the phone with her lawyer, discussing strategy for the guardianship hearing. Amanda and Derek arguing, with Amanda clearly threatening him. I kept searching. Found the night I'd overheard them arguing. Played it back with volume up. Perfect audio. Amanda confessing to the gambling debts, discussing selling the house, talking about institutionalizing me. I need you to stay strong. If you back out now, if you tell anyone what we've done, you'll go down with me. Clear as a bell. Recorded, preserved, undeniable evidence. I found a USB drive in the desk drawer, miraculously still functional despite its age. I started downloading footage. Every damning conversation, every confession, every moment of manipulation. Then I found the landline phone, another relic from the past, connected to a utility account I'd apparently never canceled. The phone was dead, but when I checked the service panel, I realized the line was still active. I just needed to reset the connection. I did. The phone came to life with a dial tone. My hands were shaking as I searched through my old address book and found a name. Margaret Shaw. We'd served together on a non-profit board 15 years ago. She was an attorney specializing in elder law. Fierce, brilliant, uncompromising. I dialed her office number, praying it was still current. Shaw and Associates. A receptionist answered. "I need to speak to Margaret Shaw, please. It's an emergency. May I ask who's calling?" "Maribel Harmon." "She may not remember me, but—" "Maribel Harmon?" Margaret's voice came on the line. "My God, Maribel, I haven't heard from you in years. What's wrong? You sound terrified." I told her everything, all of it, as quickly as I could: the stolen house, the forged documents, the guardianship, the imprisonment, and now the evidence I'd found. Margaret listened without interrupting. When I finished, there was a long pause. Then, "Can you play me some of that audio?" I held the phone up to the security monitor's speaker and played Amanda's confession about the gambling debts and plans to institutionalize me. Another pause. Then Margaret's voice, hard as steel. "Maribel, we're filing emergency motions today. But first, we need to get you out of that house safely. Can you stay where you are? Stay hidden? How long?" "A few hours. I need to prepare documents and get them filed. Then I'll come to you with the police." "Do you have the USB drive with the recordings?" "Yes. Guard it with your life. That's your proof. That's everything we need." We hung up. I sat in that hidden room, clutching the USB drive, surrounded by the evidence of my own life. The blueprints I'd drawn, the business I'd built, the house I'd created with my own hands. I started gathering more documents. Amanda's laptop was upstairs in the office. If I could access it, maybe I'd find more evidence. Emails with the document forger, bank transfer records, communications with the doctor who'd written the false report. I crept back upstairs and into the office. Amanda's laptop sat on my old desk, closed, but not locked. I opened it carefully. No password. She'd been too confident. I started photographing everything. Emails, bank records, text message screenshots she'd saved, evidence of conspiracy, fraud, theft, elder abuse. A trail of digital breadcrumbs showing exactly what she'd done and how she'd done it. I was so focused, I didn't hear the front door open, didn't hear footsteps on the stairs, didn't know Amanda had come back early until her voice behind me said, "What are you doing?" I spun around. Amanda stood in the doorway, her face white with shock, then red with rage. "How did you get out? How did you get in here?" She strode toward me, fast. "What have you been doing?" I backed up, clutching my phone where I'd been taking pictures. "I know everything, Amanda. The gambling debts. Your plan to sell the house. To institutionalize me. I have proof. Give me that phone." She lunged for it. I dodged, but she was faster. She grabbed my wrist, squeezing hard. I tried to pull away. She grabbed my hair with her other hand, yanking me backwards. "You stupid old woman, you've ruined everything." She was screaming now, all pretense gone. Her face was twisted with rage, ugly and terrifying. I fought back, kicked her shin. She yelped and loosened her grip. I broke free and ran for the stairs. Amanda caught me at the landing. She grabbed my arm and shoved me. I fell, tumbling down 3 steps before catching myself on the railing. Pain exploded in my shoulder. "Amanda, stop!" Derek's voice. He was home. Standing at the bottom of the stairs, staring up at us in horror. "What are you doing?" "She's been spying. She's been going through my things. She's trying to ruin everything." He made a note. What did that note say? That I was lying? That I was confused? I'd never know. "Let her go, Amanda." "No, she. Let her go. Now. Or I'm calling the police myself." Amanda released me. I scrambled down the stairs, clutching the USB drive in my pocket, holding my injured shoulder. I ran for the front door. Made it outside. Kept running. Down my driveway. Down the sidewalk. 3 houses down to the Hendersons' home. They were an elderly couple. Must have been in their 80s. I'd built their deck 20 years ago. They'd always been kind. I pounded on their door. Janet Henderson opened it, her eyes going wide. "Maribel, dear God, what happened? Please," I gasped. "Please, help me. Call the police. Call Margaret Shaw." I gave her the number, barely able to breathe. "Please." Janet pulled me inside. Her husband Roger was already dialing 911. Through the window, I saw Amanda standing on my front lawn, staring at the Hendersons' house. Her face was a mask of fury and desperation. She knew she'd lost. She knew everything was falling apart. The police arrived in 6 minutes. Margaret Shaw arrived 15 minutes later, briefcase in hand, determination in her eyes. "Show them," she said to me. "Show them everything." I did. The police officers listened to the recordings in the Hendersons' living room. I watched their expressions change from skepticism to shock to cold professional anger. When Amanda's voice said, "If you back out now, if you tell anyone what we've done, you'll go down with me," one of the officers shook his head in disgust. "Mrs. Harmon, we need to bring your daughter in for questioning. Are you willing to press charges?" I didn't hesitate. Yes, they arrested Amanda that evening. She screamed the whole way to the police car, claiming I'd manipulated the recordings, that I'd fabricated everything, that I was the real criminal. The neighbors came out to watch. After 30 years on this street, they saw me being vindicated and my daughter being taken away in handcuffs. Derek stood on my lawn, watching his wife be arrested. When the police asked him to come downtown for questioning, he went without protest. His shoulders were slumped in defeat. Later, I learned he cooperated fully, providing testimony about everything Amanda had done. He confirmed the gambling debts, the forged documents, the systematic theft. In exchange for his cooperation, he received a lighter sentence. Margaret worked through the night, preparing emergency motions. By 8 o'clock the next morning, we were back in front of Judge Hawkins. This time, I wasn't alone. Margaret presented a thick folder of evidence. The recordings, the original house documents, proving I'd built it myself. Forensic analysis of the forged signatures, bank records showing the systematic theft, emails between Amanda and the document forger, and Derek's sworn testimony. Judge Hawkins listened to the audio recordings with an expression of growing horror. When Amanda's voice said, "This is my house, my space, my decisions," and then later discussed plans to institutionalize me, the judge closed her eyes briefly. "Mrs. Harmon," she said when the recordings finished, "I owe you an apology. This court failed you. I failed you. These are some of the most egregious acts of elder abuse I've encountered in 23 years on the bench." The guardianship was dissolved immediately. All of my rights were restored on the spot. My bank accounts were unfrozen. Judge Hawkins issued an emergency order forcing Amanda to return every penny she'd stolen, plus damages for pain and suffering. Furthermore, Judge Hawkins continued, her voice hard, "I'm forwarding this entire case to the district attorney for criminal prosecution. Miss Pierce will face charges of fraud, forgery, elder abuse, theft, false imprisonment, and assault. Mr. Pierce will face lesser charges as an accessory." Amanda's attorney tried to argue that Amanda had been under severe psychological stress, that she wasn't in her right mind, that she'd acted out of misplaced concern. It fell flat. The evidence was too overwhelming. The recordings too clear. The forensic document examiner testified that every signature Amanda had claimed was mine was forged. The signatures weren't even good forgeries. Amanda had simply counted on no one checking. Dr. Marcus, my doctor, testified that he'd been manipulated. Amanda had called claiming to be my healthcare proxy and had led him to believe I'd been displaying symptoms I'd never actually shown. He'd written his letter based on false information. The Adult Protective Services worker, Helen Crawford, testified about her visit to my home. Margaret asked pointed questions about what Helen had actually observed versus what she'd been told by Amanda. Helen admitted she'd relied heavily on Amanda's characterization of the situation. Caleb was called to testify. My son looked broken. He took the stand and admitted that Amanda had coached him on what to say. She'd convinced him I was declining. She'd told him I'd signed over power of attorney willingly. She'd lied to him, and he'd believed her because she was his sister. "I'm so sorry, Mom," he said from the stand, tears streaming down his face. "I should have questioned it. I should have talked to you directly. I failed you." The hardest moment came when Margaret asked me to take the stand and describe everything I'd endured. The isolation, the imprisonment in my own home, the theft of my possessions, the systematic erasure of my identity, the physical assault on the stairs. I spoke clearly and calmly, presenting my architectural license, my old business records, testimonials from former clients who remembered me. I explained the security system I'd designed, showing technical knowledge no one with dementia could possibly possess. "I built that house with my own hands," I said. "Every wall, every window, every board. I designed the security system because I needed to protect myself and my children. I never imagined I'd need protection from my own daughter." When I finished testifying, the courtroom was silent. Judge Hawkins ruled from the bench. "The guardianship is permanently dissolved. Mrs. Harmon's rights are fully restored. Miss Pierce is ordered to vacate Mrs. Harmon's property within 24 hours and to return all possessions, documents, and funds within 72 hours. The criminal charges will proceed." I walked out of that courthouse a free woman. Margaret walked beside me, a hand on my shoulder. "You did it, Maribel. You won." The next few days were a blur of reclaiming my life. I changed every lock in the house, installing systems even more sophisticated than the ones I'd built 30 years ago. Amanda's belongings were removed by court-ordered movers. I stood in my living room and watched them carry out the last box. Derek appeared one afternoon to apologize. He looked terrible, haunted, and ashamed. "I knew it was wrong," he said. "I should have stopped her. I should have protected you. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I didn't forgive him. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I accepted his apology because he'd ultimately helped bring Amanda to justice. The bank returned all my stolen funds with formal apologies from the branch manager and regional director. They implemented new protocols to prevent similar fraud. Patricia Brenner personally called to apologize for not investigating the power of attorney documents more carefully. Gerald Patterson, my old attorney, also called. He admitted he should have trusted his own instincts and experience with me, rather than accepting Amanda's claims so easily. He offered to represent me pro bono in any remaining legal matters. I declined. Margaret was my attorney now. The criminal case moved forward quickly. Amanda tried to fight the charges at first, but the evidence was overwhelming. Derek's testimony alone would have been damaging, but combined with the recordings, the forged documents, and the financial records, her attorney advised her to plead guilty. She did. She stood in court 3 months later and admitted to everything: elder abuse, fraud, forgery, theft, false imprisonment, assault. The judge sentenced her to 5 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 3 if she showed genuine remorse and completed rehabilitation programs. She was also ordered to pay full restitution for everything she'd stolen, plus an additional $100,000 in damages. I watched her be led away in handcuffs. My daughter, the child I'd raised, and I felt nothing but sadness. Not satisfaction, not triumph, just deep, aching sadness for what she'd become and what we'd both lost. Caleb came to see me after the sentencing. We sat in my kitchen, in the house I'd built, and talked for the first time in months. Really talked. "I don't know how to make this right," he said. "I believed her. I testified against you. I helped her steal from you. She manipulated you," I said. "She manipulated everyone. That doesn't excuse what I did. I should have known better. I should have trusted you." His voice broke. "Can you ever forgive me?" I reached across the table and took his hand. "You're my son. I love you. Forgiveness will take time. Trust will take longer. But we'll rebuild if you want to." He did. We started slowly, with weekly phone calls, then monthly dinners. I met his children, my grandchildren, who I'd barely seen in years. They were good kids, kind kids, not responsible for their aunt's crimes. Dorothy flew in from Phoenix. She hugged me for a long time and apologized for doubting me. "I should have known you better than that. I should have trusted my own sister over someone I'd spoken to once on the phone." "Amanda was convincing," I said. "That's what made it work." My friend Janet came by with apologies and casseroles. The neighbors who'd testified about my supposed confusion looked embarrassed when they saw me. Some apologized. Some avoided me. I didn't hold grudges. Amanda had been systematically building her false narrative for months. She'd fooled people who'd known me for years. But the person I was most grateful to see was Margaret Shaw. She became not just my attorney, but my friend. We had coffee every week, and she told me about other cases she was handling, other elders being exploited by their own families. "It happens more than people realize," she said. "Adult children stealing from aging parents, convincing everyone the parent is incompetent when they're actually fine. The system is supposed to protect vulnerable adults, but sometimes the system itself becomes a weapon." That's when I decided what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I started volunteering with an elder rights organization. I gave talks about financial exploitation and how to protect yourself. I shared my story with other seniors, warning them about the signs of family theft. I became an advocate, using my experience to help others avoid what I'd gone through. I also started mentoring young women interested in architecture and construction. I taught workshops on home security, on financial independence, on the importance of documenting your achievements. I showed them my old business records, my blueprints, my contractor's license. I told them, "Keep records of everything. Prove your life's work. Don't let anyone erase you." My house became my sanctuary again. I renovated the guest room, turning it back into my home office. I updated the security system with modern technology, but kept the old hidden room in the basement as a reminder. I filled the house with light and color and new memories. I rewrote my will carefully, with Margaret's help. The house would go to a women's shelter organization when I died. Amanda would never benefit from my death. Neither would Caleb, though I made sure his children had college funds. My money would help people who needed it. People who'd survived abuse and needed a fresh start. On my 71st birthday, exactly 1 year after Amanda's whispered words had set everything in motion, I threw a party. A real party, with friends I'd reconnected with and new friends I'd made through my advocacy work. Margaret was there. Dorothy flew in. Caleb came with his family. We stood in my living room, in the house I'd built, and someone made a toast to survival, to justice, to second chances. I looked around at the faces of people who genuinely cared about me, people who'd supported me through the darkest time of my life, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: peace. Amanda's betrayal had nearly destroyed me, but it hadn't. I'd fought back. I'd won. I'd reclaimed not just my house and my money, but my dignity, my autonomy, and my voice. I was 71 years old. I'd lived through my husband's death, built a successful business in a male-dominated field, raised 2 children alone, and survived a systematic attempt to erase my entire life. I was still standing, still strong, still myself. The house stood solid around me, every beam and board a testament to what I'd built, not just the physical structure, but the life inside it. My life, my story, mine, and no one, not even my own daughter, could take that away from me. I learned that strength isn't about never falling, it's about getting back up, even when the people who should love you most are the ones who pushed you down. I learned that documentation matters, that trusting yourself matters, that fighting back matters, even when the whole world seems aligned against you. Most of all, I learned that it's never too late to reclaim your life. At 71, I'm not winding down. I'm just getting started. The house still stands on Maple Street, a monument to resilience and the power of never giving up. I built it once with my own hands, and when someone tried to take it from me, I built my life again from the foundation up. That's the thing about being an architect. You understand structure. You understand that a strong foundation can withstand almost anything. And you never, ever forget what you built. Amanda forgot. She forgot who built that house. She forgot who raised her. She forgot the strength of the woman she tried to destroy. That was her biggest mistake. I hope my story helps someone out there who might be facing something similar. Trust yourself. Document everything. Don't let anyone, not even family, convince you that you're less capable than you are. And if you ever find yourself trapped, remember, you're stronger than you think. You built your life. You can defend it. What would you do if you discovered a family member was trying to steal your life's work? Have you ever had to stand up to someone who tried to convince the world you were incompetent? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might help someone else who's struggling. If this story resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to hear more stories about resilience, justice, and the strength of everyday people facing extraordinary challenges. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. You never know whose life might be changed by knowing they're not alone. Thank you for listening to my story. May you always have the courage to stand up for yourself, the wisdom to document your achievements, and the strength to fight back when someone tries to take what's yours. Take care of yourselves, and remember, you're never too old to fight for your life.